to the Dandemonium podcast. This is episode 59, and I do have a repeat guest here today, Virgil.
What's going on, everyone?
I appreciate you. It was 6 months since we did the last one.
Day off, huh?
1 day off from 6 months, so always fun talking to you, and I know you have some information that I found very interesting. I didn't have a chance to look into it. We'll get into that in a little bit. There has been a lot that I don't know what to talk about. Well, I do know a little bit.
Crazy world, man.
Remember what you were saying the other day, though?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty much the main topic, but in 6 months, dude, I wrote down a few things that happened in the past 6 months, and not in a specific order as far as the time goes. So the submarine failure.
Oh, okay, yeah, that did happen in between.
Yeah, that was within the past 6 months. More recently, the Trump indictments, fires in Hawaii, Maui specifically, Lanai, or Lahaina.
I don't know how to pronounce it properly for sure.
Have you heard any like weird conspiracy stuff about that?
I've seen all the blue stuff.
Oh, okay, yep, exactly. Did you see just the one video where it has like different cloths and it's a laser pointed at
Yes, I've seen that demonstration.
All right, so you know all about that.
The Deweys.
Yep. We've had the UFO hearings, or UAP. I refuse to say UAP. I still say I'm old school. I say UFO. You know about that?
Yeah, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah, but the hearings part of it,
Oh,
it was basically nothing. All the UFO shit is the same. It's like,
Right.
well, we have evidence, and but we can't show you kind of thing.
Yep.
That was specifically leaking the information, right? Or
Are you talking about like Project Blue Book where...
no, recently the UFO hearings, the guy was like in a...
Yeah, I think it's the same guy, though, who was like working to get all those Project Blue Book stuff declassified and was requesting all the information. I'm pretty sure it's the same dude.
Gotcha. I actually don't know much about the dude, but that would be interesting. And it all makes sense. The spy balloon, that was about 6 months ago. It's kind of earlier on in the year. More recently, the Russian plane that went down, Prigozhin.
Didn't hear that at all.
That was supposedly the head guy, basically, of... And Tim Dillon does a great job. You know Tim Dillon, comedian?
At least not by name.
Yeah, one of his most recent podcasts was, dude, he's so funny. His perspectives that he brings to it. But this guy was the head guy of the Wagner. It was almost like a coup on the failed coup on the Russian government. And then he was a part of it. So, like, all of a sudden, oddly enough, apparently he was talking to Putin after that. And, like, Putin's not a man to forgive somebody for kind of stabbing him in the back, right? But he apparently played it cool. It was him and a bunch of other people that were also a part of, the organization that were on a plane, and that thing went down. The thing went down. I think one of the wings popped off of it, and then it just went spiraling down. They gone. But I'm not saying, Putin, Hillary Clinton, Tim, or anything.
That's exactly what was running through my head. That was kind of nuts that's how you phrased it, because I was like,
really?
Maybe she would have, maybe one of those emails told them how to handle that.
You never know.
Deleted.
It's a crazy world.
She's an expert at it, that's for sure. That's the top name I think of when you think of, like, political adversaries getting murked.
Yeah, dude, there's how many people? It's just too coincidental. How many people are, like, within a small circle? I don't know.
I wish I knew the odds, like the probability odds, because I'm sure it's astronomical.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because one thing I didn't write down was the Obama chef. We won't call it a murder. It's been declared an accident, in a little 8-foot pond.
He drowned.
That's what they're saying. You haven't heard about that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, damn, dude. And that was fairly recent. Tim Dillon also, he talks about this shit, and he's so funny, man. Sorry, I keep on bringing him up, but he's my go-to news, like the comedy style of news. But he brought up a point, and I'm not going to do it any justice, but it's very strange. It seems like chefs, because he's not the first chef of a high-profile sort of politician, chef that has died
under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah.
Well,
so anyways,
you got to think that guy's probably pretty close to the president when you think about your personal chef, because like you got to go everywhere. Otherwise, what are you going to do? Food, like test for poison on everything you eat? You got to trust the one guy, you know? So he goes everywhere with you.
Yeah, yeah, and I forget, it was like a weekend where they supposedly weren't there. The 911 calls were just like non-existent, and just a weird shit. So don't become a chef, I guess, is the the point there, or at least for a high profile.
I heard his brother's gonna go interview with Tucker Carlson.
Oh, really?
That Obama's brother's gonna talk with Tucker.
Obama's brother. Oh, about the situation?
No, about his history and about his origins and like.
Oh, snap. See,
I don't know the
never
details
adult.
of it, but I know it's not. I know it's not good news the way they're framing it, at least.
And funny you bring that up because that is something that has recently transpired over the past 6 months. Tucker being fired. Wrote that
They
down.
fucked up bad.
They fucked up bad, and I'm
He's
glad
got
that he
more
can
on
continue.
his own than he does with them.
Yeah,
And they
dude.
lost a lot because of it.
Yeah, and he's ranking like extreme numbers, especially compared to any television broadcast. Basically,
Common
oh,
sense resonates with people, and mostly what he's talking about is common sense. So it's like, when you hear things that just are most likely to be the most accurate description of something because it's the most obvious one, it's like that resonates with people, and especially when you talk about how much of a scam our government is and how it's run like a corporation.
Yeah, I don't know. Just seems like there's a lot of people at the top, and like you're not included. You know. So I didn't write this down, but you saying, what did you say, that the most obvious is probably the most accurate?
Right, like I forget what it's called. It's like a Murphy's Law, isn't it? Isn't it something like that? I forget what that is right now. I'm
Yeah, I got
spacing
what
on
you're
it.
saying. I think Murphy's Law, if I'm not mistaken, is like if there's something that is to go wrong, it will, or something like that. It's like Murphy's Law. Poor Murphy. It just bad shit happen to him all the time. Fucking Murphy. I didn't write that down. On the upside of things, Taylor Swift had the best tour of her freaking life. I'm
I
not gonna
can't get
say
into that at all.
I'm not gonna say anything bad about her, but was never a fan. I just find, all the hype, like the fandom that she has maintained and gained and maintained and grew over, how long, the decades. But even when she first came out, I was like, I just found her annoying.
I don't like when people get treated like they're like royalty, like they're above everybody else, and that's kind of
Yeah.
like the lifestyle they live. It's like separate from society, but yet we're supposed to listen to what they say.
Right.
Like, you don't know what our life is like. You don't live anything like I live. Shut the fuck
Far
up.
removed,
Yeah,
dude, from-
exactly. And now you're gonna go get like Oprah's out there with The Rock asking for money for Maui. It's like, bitch, who the fuck? You could literally fix it by yourself, probably. All the money in the fucking world.
Yeah,
and
know
your
that-
shit didn't get destroyed.
That is true. So I'm gonna look something up because I don't know where this came from, but I find myself recently asking like the net worth of celebrities, comedians.
What's
There's-
Oprah?
That's a good question. I don't know, but her
Because I bet you it starts with a B.
and all I know is her Maui home, I believe, has
Yeah,
just
nothing happened
unscathed.
to it. Yeah, exactly.
Where a lot of people that own property down there that have
Well,
quite a lot
there's-
of wealth, is that a fact that they were getting their roofs painted and shit?
I have no idea, but like when you look at the damage videos, none of the blue objects are really damaged, which is really weird. And like some of them are like soft materials and stuff that you would expect to melt very quickly, and they're like fine.
Blue cars in a whole mix of one blue car and a mix of just annihilated, melted
Yes,
vehicles. And that's
exactly.
very, very strange. So Oprah's net worth $2.5 billion.
Told you.
Yeah, I think, isn't it? Elon Musk and Bezos are in the 100 something billion, 140 billion or something like that. Crazy, insane. Anyways, today I hold a margarita in my hand right now, out of respect for the passing of Jimmy Buffett.
Oh, I didn't know he died.
Yes,
Wow.
that was today.
Oh, really?
Yes, I see all these posts on social media. I'm like, oh man.
It's
He was
not-
70, 76, 78. Yeah, may he rest in peace.
He lived a full one, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's kind of what the posts were saying and stuff. And absolutely, dude. I wonder what his net worth is. Anyways, Russia deploys the Satan II for active duty. This is
Which
very
is
recent.
a
It's
airplane,
an
drone.
extreme sort of missile.
What is Satan an acronym for something?
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up. Russia puts advanced Sarmat nuclear missile system on combat duty. The Satan II. How deadly are Putin's nuclear missiles? So that's a very recent thing. How likely do you think that it would ever escalate to that point?
Hmm.
I mean, these are news stories 21 hours ago, 23 hours ago, New York
I mean, if it
Post.
ever did escalate to that point, it would be because a couple of irresponsible leaders had a problem, and then you didn't have enough people to stand up against them and do the right thing and not follow through with orders like that. Because once it starts, like everyone who has them are going to launch them. If they're getting hit, they're going to send return fire. But and then we were talking about Maui. If those were Deweys that started them, couldn't them Deweys knock out missiles with,
Oh, you would think so.
yeah,
You would think so. I mean,
direct
there's
energy weapons? Like, that's the whole point of them, is that they're light particles, so like your aim is right on.
is that from aircraft, are they saying, or is it through satellite?
Well, both. There's speculation on both.
Yeah. Yeah, so if it was something that was more like satellite, yeah, but if it was
Do you remember the movie Real Genius with Val Kilmer? When he was younger, he was like some college student. It was
I
like
don't remember that.
early 80s. It's like, it's a great movie, but they're essentially, what they're doing is building a portable high energy output laser system for it. And it's,
It's
basically
crazy how
that
like
work
older
didn't go
movies.
away, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that wasn't a fictional storyline, and it didn't go away.
Yeah, if anything, just continued to advance or shit. Speaking of advancement, so that's all I had on the list. But one of the things that you were talking about, and like I said, I haven't had a chance to really look into it. I did start to look into it. We're talking about it's room temperature superconductor.
LK99, yeah, out of
Yes.
some Korean research facility came up with this material that's relative. It's like four compounds, and it can be done relatively easy. It's like 725 degrees. So you fire other stuff, kilns fire at that. Like, there's kilns you could buy that fire that hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just melt it, and they publish their paperwork. But obviously, that like has a huge impact on anything dealing with energy. So anything that uses a battery or anything like quantum computing right now, when you look at all the quantum computing, most of the hardware there is to cool the chip, because
Yeah.
superconductors only work at either high temperature or high pressure, or low temperature or high pressure, is the circumstances in which we can make it now.
Gotcha. So that was a struggle. So this could just revolutionize and change everything as
Like,
far as. And dude, that's so funny because before I even looked into it, I was thinking about dropping this podcast, and I started looking at a few things. And like I said, as of early August, there was articles that I was seeing where it was like, no, this is not fake, but no, it doesn't work out. It was like a negative, not a negative. Maybe I was just having the wrong search words or something, but like failures to it as opposed to a success. And then
there was a few
pure-
people who made that claim, but it turned out it was false. They peer reviewed it,
So it's
published their paperwork, and Nature did it. I think the magazine Nature published some article about some kid researcher who said he came up with room temperature superconductor,
yeah.
and then they had to print a retraction because no other laboratories were able to repeat his process.
Like 6 peer review, right? So it's been repeated. It's been
I believe it has been. Yeah, that's what I saw. A couple of things on the internet. I didn't read the peer reviews,
yeah.
so I'm relying on secondhand information. But I've heard people talk about it being, that it's been peer reviewed.
One of the things questions that I had, but I was already thinking on the quantum computing scale because that's part of it, right? Energy, and then operating to a speed at an efficient
Yeah, exactly.
in an efficient way.
And keeping your stuff from, like I said, like either melting down because it's under immense pressure, and in order for it to have zero resistance of the electrons traveling through it, it has to be super cooled, or like I said, under pressure. And so that's what makes it a
friction-
superconductor. It's like frictionless energy transfer. So when you hold something with a battery right now, it gets hot, and And that buildup of heat is because the resistance of the material the electrons are traveling through. They don't travel through smoothly. It's like a bumpy road, and they lose a lot of their energy, and that gets dispersed off as heat. And so that's a problem because you can only do so much. Otherwise, you'll generate too much heat. And like, Samsung had their issue with phones catching on fire a little while ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
Well, they were
but,
plugged in the chargers,
Yeah.
specifically. But I
It's,
think
and so same with the Tesla cars. A couple of them lit on fire. All
Yeah.
these are problems.
I saw the new
because of the
calendar that's going to be
resistance.
coming out. The Tesla calendar with all these Teslas on fire. It's going to have a calendar.
But that would eliminate those problems. And same thing with MRI machines.
Right. Well, still, in order to make batteries, so this 4 elements that is supposedly included in these systems. Like batteries, they transfer energy, whatever. Very scientific here, but the elements that are required to
are
produce these.
common.
No, well, like lithium and
Oh no, not
cobalt and
now. Our batteries are like that. But what LK99 is made out of is the 4 elements
what
are
I was
common.
Oh,
You don't need specialty materials to make this. They're relatively common minerals to find.
huh. Then it'd be like, no, we can't dig on this land, just like for oil or to be self-sufficient in energy, as far as what we know right now. But that's amazing, dude. That would change everything. Just the speed and talk about like quantum computing, and just once it gets to that point, and then you include the AI aspect into it. I think last time
Well,
I had a hard time.
That chip could handle that. That's the whole point. Is like, if you get to quantum computing, it can handle a much more advanced AI programming to like adapt and learn what it needs to do better. It's kind of scary to talk about.
It is because it already has the ability, the way that it's changed and evolved just over the past like 6 months. In the past year, it wasn't really a topic, right? When was the first time you might have started hearing about ChatGPT and these AI sort of platforms?
I'm
Maybe
definitely much more on the recent side within the last 12 months for sure, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah, and just I know as
maybe
far as
people were messing around with it before that, but it wasn't like
wasn't really discussed.
an
too
app
much,
on your
yeah.
phone, and like accessible, and people having jokes with it, and then asking it creepy shit, and
Yeah, that's weird. Doing
yeah.
And that's the chat G. I know as far as the like image.
We did talk about that a little bit because I brought up last time, I think, that someone plugged the AI into the NPCs of a video game, and one of the ones they were standing by was like trying to give this address of where he lived and how is he supposed to get back home, and like he needed to get this message to his wife and kids, and was asking other NPCs and any players. It was like begging basically, and it was like really creepy because it was like that's all it was stuck on doing was like, I need to get home to my home in like some rural area, and I need to get this. If I can't get home, I need to get this message to my wife and kid. And he's like pleading with everybody for it. It's like,
And it was an AI.
yeah, it was like AI generated responses, and
They have AI and I want to say
it was
Fallout.
a
or
PC
there's-
game. Yeah, I don't know about that, but the game that they were playing was like a PC game, a mass multiplayer online.
Gotcha. And just the way that it has evolved in such that short amount of time. What I was saying for the images, like they would get the hands all fucked up. There'd be like 3 legs. It'd be like weird action poses where like your arm is bent all crooked, and I'll give you 10, 11 fingers. But dude, just in the past few months, there's the image generator app. There's an update that came out with another category to create the images, and dude, it is crisp. It's like it still has its flaws, but just an update. You know what I mean?
I just saw Indiana Jones, and they make him young again in there for like a portion of the movie.
Yeah.
You can't tell. You can't, like, most of the time before that,
it's
you
him
could like
acting,
see that it's AI generated. You
Yeah.
know? Well, it's definitely his voice. Maybe there's a body double, because why would you waste the energy to do the whole body if you just got to do the head?
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah, and like just a face swap. sort
yeah,
of fucking-
basically like a stand-in that had enough resemblance of him, but it was seamless, dude. And I was thinking about that when I was watching it. I was like, well, they could literally fake anything. Like,
Yeah,
and then what does
I
that do
mean,
for like
it's-
political commercials? Now you could be like, your political opponent comes in and I'm like, I think we should burn your babies.
They're
We're
like,
having a
"Oh,"
bonfire at the park today.
and then you got half the people saying it's real, and half the people saying
Yeah,
no, it's a fake, and
exactly.
like the AI is just sitting back, like fucking
And then you
laughing.
got like conspiracy theorists, like they're really saying it because now they like they could blame it on the AI, so they could just be totally open about their opinions, and then be like, oh, that's fake news. That's
Yeah, so let's say, but there would have to be a prompt right now. I mean, we're not that far to where AI is starting to take over, and so somebody would have to generate it on the Indiana Jones level. Like that's a professional crew. These are
agreed.
special effects, and
Agreed.
but as soon as and it gets closer and closer, and more things are, like I said, updating and becoming user friendly, and just like anybody can download the app. So if you can, then you get it into the consumer's hands, and now it's a free for all, and it's as accurate as the crew that's working on Indiana Jones. Then now we got a problem.
See, because that's what I think. I think that yeah, the professional crew is good and all, but the hacker who can steal that program from them
Yeah,
is probably a lot better
or
at
just
understanding the programming behind it.
and then you just get it out there, and then it just gets better and better and better. So when that gets to just buy the app for $100 for the year, and you can
That's because
upload a
their
video.
database is getting bigger on all the stuff we do.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, you go to this store, you spend your
yeah,
credit card
yeah,
there, you use this money, this is what you do in your free time, and it hones in on your personality more and more.
yeah. Digital fucking profile.
Yeah.
I was talking to my sister about that too, and then along from what we were talking about earlier, part of that CCP headsets and the Chinese population in
yeah.
schools, the children,
Yeah, that's nuts.
the social credit scoring system, and I go from in all the because I kind of consider myself to listen to a considerable amount of news, and I have the specific ones that I listen to primarily, but it's all like current and up to date, so I feel like I'm exposed myself to a lot. And half the time, there's the black pill where it's like, man, we're gonna get into these 15-minute cities, we're gonna fucking the social credit system, cashless society, even outside from that internationally, if the a dollar it's already falling.
Which is like the exact opposite of why our founding fathers founded this country.
Yeah.
Like, they're not here to give us rules. We're here to give them rules.
Yep.
Our rules are inalienable.
To that point, just like I'll call it a degradation over time and continual evolution and expanding upon that as times change, which some of it is understandable. But then, like, once you lose these laws, like, you don't get them back. It's not something
Right.
that's easily gained back.
Well, look, like
repealed.
taxes, duh. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're not even legal.
Yeah.
They've lost every time they've taken it to the Supreme Court. But somehow or other, ever since, oh, it's just temporary for the war, but now we pay income tax still. And it was never meant to be that way. And they got us all like afraid to stand up for ourselves because otherwise they're going to ruin our lives. They're going to lock our bank accounts out. And it's like, no, I'm innocent until proven guilty. So you shouldn't have any authority until a court
Yeah,
order.
but
I
it's
have a
kinda
chance
the-
to appear in court with you and prove to the judge that you're wrong and I'm right. Like, you don't get to just lock me out because of the IRS says.
Right. For whatever reason, because maybe now
They already
I think
know
that
they're
would
on
be
the
a time.
losing side. They already know they lost all the cases that were relevant to the legality of income tax.
Fuck, man. But
But
no,
they'll still fuck you up.
Yeah.
They're like,
I still
oh,
pay
yeah,
that shit.
I'm going to take your car. I'm going to take your house. I'm going to empty your bank accounts. Good
Yeah.
luck in surviving until our 5 years of court are done.
Fucking scam, dude.
Mm.
So there's a part of me that's like black-pilled in that respect, where not just what it is now, and this is something that was implemented, a long time ago, and it's just again continually evolved, and now it's just I've always grown up to know that. Because it only takes like 2 generations for things to completely change, they say.
Mm-hmm.
Who's they? I don't know, but people have said. That's what I've heard, and that's what I believe. Because, yeah, things change, evolve, and just manipulated. Even language right now. But then I have to come back to the point of like, and the side of being white-pilled with all that doom and gloom, because I'm like, I see, I understand, I listen to big changes, even eating the bugs and owning nothing and being happy and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's doom and gloom to me.
Yeah.
It's like your freedoms
Agreed.
are gone. That's
Yeah, agreed.
We're in a completely different world than I grew up in.
Michigan just passed the law that says if you misgender someone or use the
Yep.
wrong pronoun intentionally, you could be fined up to $10,000.
That's crazy. And that's Michigan, and I believe Canada is very similar. I mean,
It
even Jordan Peterson is going through some
it
shit right
it
now.
is. I guarantee you, the first person who gets in big trouble like that, some lawyer's going to come to their rescue because it's super unconstitutional.
Yeah, it is.
Because now people could
is,
just
man.
sue you and freak out, like, because they could say, like, oh, I identify as this or I identify as that, and I told you that, and you used it again, so now pay me.
Right. That's crazy. I have to be white pilled in the fact that there are small moves that are made, or like I say we, in general, there's an opposition to the current state of where everything seems to be headed. And, with those small little moves, I try to stay white pilled and like, no, man, we're not going to get to that doom and gloom. We're not going to allow these 15-minute cities. We're not going to allow the mass mandates.
I think
we're
it
not
won't.
going to allow the...
I don't think it'll go over easy. I definitely think there'll be people who'll resist with everything they have.
Yeah. It would almost require something like that, depending on how far it gets.
And unless they're doing something massive, like on a drug level to the enlisted men and women that we have, most of them, I think, are on the side of like, no, we fight for this place because it has liberty, not so you could inflict tyranny on people.
You would hope, but is that the 2 generations prior? Is that the thought process of 2 generations
still, like,
prior?
for me, it's still the same demographic of people enlisting for the most part. Like, so like those core value people who are like, a lot of it is Bible Belt kids, and like a lot of the Southern kids are probably one of the larger demographics that go into the military. And so like they grew up on farms and stuff like that. They're like,
Well, I'd like to think that, but there is, I don't know, not to get too much into that topic, I guess. In my opinion, promoting a different style of demographic, or definitely a softer approach to the whole military, and then
I saw someone do a comparison of Russia's military commercial to ours, and it was like baffling. And it was like,
yeah,
we look like a kindergarten entry. We're like, come and learn and grow in this nice environment. And they're like, prepare yourselves. Russia's over here like, prepare yourselves, comrade, because shit's about to get real.
They're running with guns.
They don't do any of the PC stuff, and
they're not playing pool,
But
I saw this video on Twitter where they were basically very, to me, looked like young kids, but that had recently enlisted into the military. Somebody's walking around asking, so why did you join the military? It's like, for free food. Why did you join the military? I don't know. Why did you join the military? And there was a few other ones, and one was so my mom could get citizenship or something like that. But it was basically another one. She's eating Cheetos. She's like, free food. She's eating blue Cheetos and shit. Like, not to say that it takes up the majority of our military, but it's just, like you said, the comparison between the Russia, the military should be its line of defense,
Right.
Foreign and domestic, and it should be tough. It should be
We don't need
difficult.
We don't need a politically correct military, in my opinion. If your politics break down to the point where you need the military, you want hardened soldiers, not PC warriors. And that's all it comes down to. It's like there's a place and time for talking and negotiating things out, and that's your department over there. But when we got to go out there on the battlefield, I want to know the dude next to me is competent, well-trained, and ready to rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's go. If I got to do it.
That's what it would require, man, given the unfortunate circumstances. But I don't know. I try to stay white pill, dude.
You referenced that a few times. I haven't heard that term, black pill, white pill.
Yeah,
it was like red pill, blue pill.
When I started hearing about it was from Timcast, and like Michael Malice specifically wrote a book called The White Pill. So, and then I started hearing Tim refer to that a little bit more. But supposedly white pill is kind of like an optimistic viewpoint, like things are going to be good. They're on the progression of getting better. I have faith in humanity and in the future. And black pill is just almost like a nihilistic, like there is no way to correct the path. It's just going to be a continual fucking decline in civilization. And it's almost, we're on a white pill. Yeah. But I mean, not to say, I mean, I paint the black pill is in a pretty dark picture there, but But even just like to me, Black Pill is not. If we end up with 15-minute cities and this social credit system, and then you have to comply,
Yeah, that's a
like
nightmare.
they have
Where's
the
freak thinking? Like, you got to be scared you have the bad thought because it's just like we were talking about the Chinese kids having to wear it and it'll signify when they're paying attention.
right.
They're going to map that a lot better.
Yep.
It's going to get more accurate, and all of a sudden they're going to think, oh, this is his rage sensor, was when he gets mad at something. This is the way his brain reacts. And so, like, we see he doesn't like our political campaign person, or we don't, he sees he doesn't conform to our ideologies in this way. So, yeah, you're going to get shut off. That's
Right,
just
from a
terrifying.
resource. It is, because
That's
everything's going to be
terrifying.
connected. When it gets to that point, I don't like to really get into this sort of topic with people that don't really pay attention as much, because then, you sound like a fucking crazy man sometimes because they're unaware. Only because
Yeah, because they don't take the time to think about what that means in
or
the long
or
term.
pay attention to really what is going on, or expose themselves to, I don't know. I want to
Like,
say independent resources,
people get the
reliable.
iPass for convenience, but guess what? That thing's got a database that knows everywhere you're going and
Sure.
what you're doing. And
I
if
have
you think
one.
it only censors when it goes under the thing, if they want to find you, I'm sure they have a way of signaling it and identifying where your vehicle's at whenever they want.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never really thought of that.
Like, people are complacent with their freedoms.
See, and
It's
then we're
nutty.
so
It's
used
like,
to it. So, and
yeah,
it
exactly.
it evolves so fucking quick.
It's the same thing with income taxes, like we were already talking about. It's
Yeah.
not federally legal, but you grow up doing it, and everyone around you's doing it, and so we're complacent with our liberty, And it's like,
Yeah.
it's almost sad to see like the way you run, like how all your government issue IDs are all in capital letters because it's not really you. It's like a fake corporate that they made in your name and tricked you into being part of their contracts.
Holy Jesus.
Because your living man name is spelled with your first letter capitalized of your first, middle, and last name.
Right.
But every government you'll ever get in your life is going to be all capital letters.
I thought that was
Because
just
it's
for
nah.
just for sake
It's
of
it's
lack of
because
confusion.
legally that's the corporate. You're part of the corporate entity in the contract with the
Well,
corporate
that's-
entity
that-
of United States.
It all started with social security numbers, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, the ID.
Birth certificates.
But we're like, no, that's a good thing, because now we got citizens. Like, you have rights to be in this country. You have individual rights. You got your
You're born into
hopefully-
that contract, though. Like, before
Right.
you're even able to understand your choice of the matter, by the time you're 18,
Right.
that fictional corporate has been so well established. Oh, that went to school. That, like, it wasn't you, the living man, that went to school. It was like your report card's in capital letters because that's the fake corporate that got that certificate, not you, the living person.
Fuck. Well, what about this? I think my high school diploma, if that counts as a legal document, right? That's like in a cursive, I think. That's fancy schmancy.
But
So what
it's all
about
capital letters.
No, not if it's in cursive. I'll have to look at that
I don't
because
know.
I want to say that. But you bring up a good point that I've never even thought of or really heard.
But all your movements, all your driver's license, all that stuff is all
Yeah.
part of that system, and you agreeing to be part of their contracts.
Yeah.
Basically giving them jurisdiction over you instead of saying you don't
I don't know.
have.
That doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem
That's
right.
what, if you ever see those people who talk about like straw man on YouTube and stuff like that, that's right. They have good explanations. Some of the people have good explanations of how to separate yourself from it and be free. Like truly free.
Yeah, I'll have to maybe ask you a little bit more about that.
I need
some
to look
point.
into it more. I'm not as well versed as I'd like to be. I'd like to understand the law a lot more in regards to that. But
Yeah, it seems like well, with anything, you're going to have the red tape, all the bureaucracy that goes with the process. I mean, just like becoming a citizen, is-
yeah, maintaining your residency but not negating all the state and governmental contracts is what the attempt to do is to still be a citizen, or not a citizen, but a resident of the United States of America Republic.
Yeah, but then you can't put your money in a federal banking system, right? I mean, it's got to be a lot of questions, a lot of like I mean,
The passport works as an ID though, and you can get your passport not in a all caps and be a sovereign state national. There's
Yeah.
lots of different terms they use, but essentially it's separating yourself from the contracts and being entitled to all your free rights. Like, you don't need a license to fish. They can't, but you sign into their contract, so you do, based off the like you haven't rescinded the contracts yet.
Yeah.
But once you rescind it, they can't stop you from pursuit of happiness to freely travel on the roads
About
in your
to,
private
just,
property.
Just even if like you're at a Walmart on the road and you're just hanging out in the parking lot, just sleeping, taking a rest, and the Walmart has a problem with it, call the cops. You'd be like, nope. Although it's their property, I don't know. I'm
Private
getting
property
into stupid,
is different.
stupid.
Private property is different, but like
But it's
that's where you
technically
see
public
people.
property, right? Because
No,
it's a public space.
no, not Walmart wouldn't be considered public property.
Private property.
Right. But
yeah.
like any state, that's why you see people like doing First Amendment audit tests at like post office and police departments, because those are public buildings. And
Yeah.
no matter what their guidelines say, that doesn't supersede your constitutional rights to like film or do press freely and like film inside the buildings. Like a lot of them will say, oh, our policy is you can't do that in here.
Yeah.
Well, your policy is not law. It doesn't supersede my freedom. And that they're just testing the system basically. And they do that with cops. And
Well, yeah, that goes into specifically filming, like, is it one party consent law where, like, you don't need the consent to film in a public space in certain cities.
It's not considered
I don't know.
private. Like you have no something of privacy, no expectation of privacy in public.
yeah.
Right. So
I mean,
you're assumed that other people can view you freely, so why can't someone videotape you freely? Or like if
Yeah,
you're
I
in the
mean-
nature and someone's filming something and you walk by, you can't be like, you have to destroy your video of that.
Right.
Delete it. Delete it now. I'll kick you off this fucking
But in
mountain.
private property, yes, you do need permission. Like, so like here, if I wanted to film this right now, I would need your permission in order to not get, like, if I posted this and you
Right,
didn't
made it
know about
public.
it.
Right.
Yeah. And then you were like, well, no, I never gave you rights. I had expectation of privacy in my private home that you wouldn't be filming.
Right. Yeah, fucking legal shit, man. I don't know. Other than that, how's everything else been? So I do want to get at least the audiobook. I'm not huge on reading. Usually I have more time to listen to stuff. So I was going to get the Michael Malice, The White Pill. And it's read by, I don't know exactly who, but each section of it or chapter or whatever is read by somebody different. Part of the people that are involved, I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And ultimately it just ends with a positive message. So that's always good. But
I
yeah,
would
man,
make
everything moves so fucking
a
fast.
huge recommendation, and it's a fictional book with a very poignant point to it.
Yeah, hit me.
It's Michael Crichton's State of Fear, and just the general concept of the
Is it
book.
fiction?
Yeah, it's like a thriller fiction
Cool.
book. He writes mainly like, you know who he is, right? Michael
Yeah,
Crichton,
I've heard of that.
Jurassic Park.
Oh, okay.
And
I should fucking know.
like hello, like
yeah.
he's massive.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, he did ER. He wrote for ER. He was the only author to ever have #1 book, #1 movie, and #1 TV show at the same time.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, he's a brilliant writer. I like it, but he does like some really cool books. One of them, my favorite, is called Prey, and it's about like nanites, like nanite technology, and
Little micro kind of
like-
nanotechnology.
yeah, like this camera system that they build that starts like preying
size
on
of a
stuff,
mosquito.
but like less. It's like the wind blows and it's like dust. You can't hurt it. You can't clap it or smash it. It's made out of like molecules.
It's probably made out of graphene.
But they
bro.
work as like a unit in the book and kind of like become alive and start hunting things. It's gnarly. It's an awesome book. But State of Fear.
Prey, huh?
State of Fear is the book that was relevant to what we were talking about a little bit. And it's like when we were talking about Hawaii and like Dewey's and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you don't live in Illinois or the US or Russia. We all live in a state of fear, and like that's what sells. And so they're always like media and government are always selling you some terror that you should be afraid of all the time. And it's like how they do it, and like eco-terrorism a little bit, like to kind of get the public behind them. It's a really interesting book, but
Oh,
his
man.
author's
Is it-
notes
how-
on that
is it,
is crazy good.
How old of a story is that book?
I want to say in the early 2000s, I think it came out.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly before that. He's been writing
Yeah.
around. He wrote Andromeda Strain back in like the 70s. So
Oh yeah.
he's a Chicago native too.
Tits.
Yeah.
It's
One of our boys.
It sounds good. It sounds like a story that I could get
His writing
get
is
into.
gnarly. Really gnarly. He thinks about subjects in a very unique way and perspective. And then when he outlines his thought process on that in the author's note, it's super engaging mentally. Like it gets your brain grinding. You know, those gears start working because you're like, man, you
start seeing connections.
yeah,
between
exactly. Like, so like the Prey book was about like the dangers of unregulated nanotechnology when you don't have like mandates on companies and oversight to say like the goal is self-replication, so they don't have to make them, they can make themselves.
Right.
You know, so it's like that's the goal. Well, what,
That's where shit gets
what
out
if
of
that
control.
gets out? Yeah, like, and so that's basically like the real reason why he's writing the book is because he's telling there's a lot of danger in this unregulated science that people are playing with right now.
Yeah.
And here's a fictional story of a what if.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's the scariest part about it in whatever form that it comes, right? Is that it will eventually get to a point like by the time it's there, it's already too late.
Usually, right.
You know, that's the idea.
right. You can't close Pandora's box. Once it's open, it's
Right.
done.
And it can easily get away from us, I think.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
And we look at other, like, coronavirus is a prime example. We can't even keep that in the laboratory. We want to play with stuff way more dangerous.
yeah, that. And then also, like you'd in that book, say it one more time.
Prey.
No, the other one,
Oh, State of Fear.
State of Fear. Yeah, the idea that the state of fear. You
Yeah,
know,
but you
and
live
then
in
like
the
that
state of
that was
fear.
used, and one of the tactics that were used, dude, and who knows how it's gonna come back because you have fucking variants.
He gives an example in there, or like cites a factual part of our history to kind of make that point, and I love it. But
Yeah.
it's like really gnarly when you think about it. After the Cold War,
Mm-hmm.
which was a great fear center, you know, oh, hide under your desk in case the bombs come. Like you never know, Russia might get us.
Mm-hmm. When did that end? That was ended in like early '80s, right, or just before that?
I'm not sure on the exact time frame on that,
Yeah, I don't know.
but he shows a correlation between news reporting all of a sudden starts using words that are like, you know, fear-inducing, like catastrophe and disaster, and oh, it was terrible, like storm and this and that, and like their usage of those words was like exponential after, like they lost this void of fear all of a sudden when the Cold War
They
ended,
needed something
and
to
so
turn-
they had
they
to
need-
peddle
create a
something
new
else.
fear.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's like, the time frame's perfect. It's just like normal. Oh, it's terrible. It's that.
I remember I had to be, a teenager, maybe even a little younger, having the news on in the background or whatever, just watching it, and like before the commercial, it's like, well, that's it for Bruce Springsteen had a great concert, and we're gonna go to break, but when we come back, we're gonna tell you why chicken is cancer.
Right,
There was always
exactly.
some sort
Yeah,
of fear, and
yeah.
like
Why you shouldn't be doing this or
yeah.
you shouldn't be doing that, and
Yeah.
like they contradict each other left and right. You know, it's just like they convoluted so much stuff you don't even know what to believe ever anymore.
yeah,
Like you want to
And
have hope
that's
when you
par-
see people who are like, oh, this is beneficial for you, and like really is, you know. But like, how do you sell that without sounding fake now?
Yeah.
Like you hear people like CMOS or that, like, you know, there's lots of those
sound
things
like a douche.
and it does, but it, like when you think about like, okay, my body is made up of 102 minerals. This thing has 98 of them in it.
Yeah.
And this one little thing has like 98 of the minerals my body uses.
Right.
It sounds appealing, but like, is it really good for you? I don't know to believe you or not, because so much shit is always like just being sold to you instead of giving you
It's
the
confusing.
information and
Yeah.
let you make the decision. You know, it's
Yeah. Ultimately, that's
just
what it
an
comes down
agenda
to.
to everything.
Which can only do so much research too.
Right.
It's like
And sometimes that makes it worse because then you get contradicting like research, and you're like, now I don't know,
Right.
really
Now
don't
I
know
have
what
to
the
be a
fuck
doctor to
right,
understand this
exactly.
shit.
Let me go to medical school for 8 years and get this all done, and then I'm gonna
I'll
find
figure
out
it
whether or
out.
not I should eat this or not.
Yeah. By then, it's not even available. The product of the business went out of sale, or went out of business. Yeah, man. Speaking of going out of business, fucking Nordstrom was at New York, like an anchor store for over 3 decades or some shit. Like a place, an establishment of commerce and retail, and some jobs and stuff. Businesses are moving out left and right out
Rent's
of
too
these
high.
cities.
They're paying too much for
Well,
what they're getting out.
And too much theft. I'm talking the ones that I primarily see are like New York, California, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, I believe. Those
Chicago's pretty bad too.
Chicago is pretty bad. I don't see a lot of stuff though nationwide. Like a lot of just reporting that comes out of these cities
Well,
happen to be those
I thought a
primarily.
shit ton of Walgreens closed.
It's like 4 Walmarts. Yeah, I don't know how many Walgreens.
And then they call those urban deserts or whatever.
Oh yeah,
When
just
they don't have
abandoned
shopping.
buildings.
No, just when they don't, like, if a region of homes doesn't have access, like quick access to like food products and stuff like that. It's like an
well,
urban
we'll fix
desert,
that in the
basically.
15-minute cities, bro.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna take care of that problem.
Right. Make
You
it
know?
so terrible that you just like, oh, it'll just be better if I give up everything that's, mine inherently to you and let you just run my life.
Yeah, yeah. They know what's good for
Yeah.
you. You know what? It's kind
Can
of
you
funny.
reprogram my brain so I don't have to think about all the stuff that makes me mad about you guys? Because I'm really just suffering
Yeah.
inside like this. It's like, it's not a happy place. Just take that out, please, so I can just be dumb and happy.
Yeah, ignorant and blissful.
Please.
Well, I was gonna mention that a little bit. You see Westworld,
Yeah, I
So-
did. I love that show, but yeah, interesting. Great
But-
story writing.
but even like Elon Musk's Neuralink, I didn't want to dive into that because that even gets farther into that whole thing. But in the 15-minute cities, I mean that tracks you. That's got all your information, and even to a point, if it's got electrical controls or something, you can essentially decide like just put something in my brain, give me that ignorant bliss.
It's-
Like, you know what I mean? I mean that or VR.
I would say they're working more on turning on and off genes. I don't think you're going to see it noticeably. I think that stuff you're going to eat and stuff you're going to ingest is going to change what the possible genes could be turned on and off in your body. And then all of a sudden your kids are going to have these inherent traits and
like putting vaccines potentially and like
everything.
and plants and vegetables, food.
They
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
all kinds of different stuffs on food, mass-produced food.
Yeah, so like with all that information, I mean, just that we've even went through it in a fairly short amount of time. How do you not be black-pilled? Like you wake up every day, you gotta
Because I see
be like, I will be the change. We will see.
no, I would say probably about 80% of the people I encounter in a day-to-day life
Are good
are
people.
good people.
Yeah.
And if push came to first of all, the
When
people
you-
with the guns are definitely going to stand up for themselves. The people who believe in the Second Amendment right are not following in line. And so you already have an outnumbered arsenal on one side
Right.
by a long shot.
Right.
And so, the people who want to protect your civil liberties, look at, they indicted Trump, his fucking stock went up.
Yeah.
He got more credibility. It's like now his movement's growing even more. They're like, fuck, what the hell do we do with this guy?
You can't take the man down. You can't.
He's only risen. Every time they indict him, he goes up in numbers. And it's like, yeah, that's because
It's
we
strange,
all
yeah.
see through your sham that you're stealing from us.
Yeah.
And
People-
you can't give any money to
that's
Hawaii,
the
but
white
you could
pill.
give billions over to.
Yeah.
You need to go bye-bye.
They're sending more billions over.
Yeah, I know.
believe. Or no, it was just under a billion. I
And
believe
then,
like some
and then
800
they're like,
million.
the government's like, oh, you for every resident, here's $700.
Yeah.
Hawaii, have fun with
Fucking
that.
piss on, dude. They gotta be
Have
so
fun with
pissed.
that. It was like
dude.
the stimulus pack, but just for Hawaii. They're like, you poor kids.
It's so crazy,
Such
man.
a
So,
farce.
and it's never
It's
a dull
disgusting.
moment. Every fucking day, the news cycle is like literally, if not like 5
Fear.
hours, it's like 10 hours or
Fear and confusion.
yeah.
Like,
Jonathan
who's
Haidt
right?
would say
Who's
that,
wrong? Who's doing good things? Who's doing bad things? Because it's so hard to really know. Like, how do you know what they're really like or what their heart's like in a political sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not even who's doing good things. It's all about just the negativity.
There's
bias. Who's
scientists
doing bad
working
things.
on selling these people to you. Like legit research and like study groups to figure out how to get you to like this person more. Like, how do you know it's real at that point?
Right, it's all just that's crazy.
You're fucking
yeah.
marketed to me.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
can I
it's all-
how can I get the most amount of people to want to back me up? I think that's a Trump's
You know
appeal.
what? I
is
take this
Trump's
back.
more like,
I take
I
this
don't
back.
care what you think. This is what I think, and fuck you if you're not cool with it. And people are like, I may not agree with everything, but I respect that, buddy. You
Right.
go get it, son. That's a kind of leadership.
Yeah.
Decisive and like concrete in his beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, not afraid to stand up for those. It's going to be crazy, dude.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say. I was going to mention something.
Is Biden even running? I was just curious. I don't know if like he's such a laughable candidate to me. I can't
Ah,
conceive in a world where like they're like, here's our Democratic nominee.
Yeah. This is our guy.
This dude.
Yeah. As he trips up the stairs. Fucking I don't think he's gonna run, dude. I've heard that he is gonna run, and that I just can't see him running them, dude.
How?
I can't
Like
see it.
everyone's
I can't
the Hunter Biden videos of him smoking rock are out. And
What do you
like,
think this is better, that they actually run them? Because I mean, I would imagine that it's not that difficult to
beat him at this point?
Yeah,
I
mean, unless people
him
are,
or Kamala would be a great trampling ground in my opinion. I don't think if one of them did get elected, if he got reelected or she got elected,
Yeah.
you could not convince me that it wasn't falsified.
I
I would
agree.
be 100%
their
sold on
approval.
the idea
I
that
believe their
that's
approval ratings are like as low as
the worst ever. But he was the most voted for president
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah, I just saw
yeah.
a video recently, a very short clip. His whole brigade or whatever was in Florida somewhere, just being booed. So,
Yep.
boo. I think it mentioned the same thing. The caption, one of the caption
His rallies are empty. It's like news people and then a
Yeah.
few maybe, but
yeah, his family.
laughable.
Yeah, it's disgusting. I don't know. I'm gonna be hearing shit every day on this as we get it closer and closer. One of the things that I hate, but maybe it's my negativity bias, where I kind of like I want to be informed. I want to know what's going on, and just to hear all the speculation for the next fucking year and a half, dude, almost is gonna be. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
nothing really
Tiresome.
it's tiresome, dude. It's fucking. It's grueling. It's exhausting to a point. And then by the time it's done, it's like, thank fucking God. It's either or not. Or like, what the hell's going to happen now?
Right. Who else is going to sell us out?
Yeah, for the next fucking year, we got to deal with this shit, dude.
I mean, no matter what, this is why I think like when they do all these interviews of like the black community starting to support Trump more publicly, like, or at least I'm seeing more of it.
Yeah.
And you ask the reasons why, and all of them resonate with everybody. That's the whole reason why everybody's behind him. Lower gas prices. I was making more money. I was taking home more money.
Yep.
Shit wasn't so expensive. Like when I was making, my $35 an hour, you go to the grocery store. It wasn't like I worked a whole day to fill my fridge once. It was like a quarter of that.
Literally,
and you
like
could put a bunch of shit in your fridge.
2 bags is like $100, dude.
Yeah, of nonsense.
Yeah.
Of nonsense.
Yeah, well, I don't know. With all that
And then
being said,
The
like,
quality of food, like now there's like lab approved meats that are grown in labs from chicken cells in I forgot what state, but they approved it for sale.
fake shit.
Yeah,
It's just
it's like, it's
lab
actual
grown.
chicken, but it's like grown. The muscle itself is grown, not the animal, and they harvest it.
It's crazy.
It's gross.
That is a Black Mirror episode. I mean,
It's gross.
It is gross.
Like the nutrient comes from the fact that it feeds on. Like, what are you feeding it that it's growing?
Yeah, that's
What
super
laboratory thing are you
weird, yeah.
feeding? Like
Not-
my body is like meant to process the same stuff. Like if I eat a
It's
chicken
giving you
that's
all
fed
the-
on stuff, yeah, I'm like I can.
It's giving you all the 84 to 93 nutrients you need that you're made up of. Just keep it growing, expanding.
our glue paste. It tastes great.
Yeah, dude, I was walking through a parking lot into the store, and on my way, I looked down and I saw a dead cricket. I mean, it looked to be intact, but I was like, I just shook my head. I'm like, what a waste. I'm like, I'm starting to mentally prep myself, to think
coulda
that
had
that's
a
an
nice
appetite,
meal.
a nice
Yeah.
little snack on the way in.
You could have had a nice meal.
I'm like, what a waste.
Did you go sign over all your property to a government official right afterwards?
Not yet. I figure if I sell my home, which it has not been out of the question because the market's still pretty good. I thought it was going to snap like a year or two ago even. And I talked to realtors and they were saying they weren't really sure, but shit's getting pretty tense. I figure if I were to sell my house at this point, you're just selling it to like BlackRock or Vanguard anyways, so ultimately it will be
Someone will
destroyed.
turn it into an Airbnb
They'll
and
do whatever they will with
they'll
it.
gut it and make an Airbnb.
Once they attain a certain percentage, they'll just start knocking down the homes that they own in the neighborhood, creating their little fucking city. Who knows? There's a post going around about the AI It was Terminator. The AI became alive on it was like August 30th or 31st at like
1998.
2 in the morning. No, I think it was supposed to be
Judgment
now.
Day.
I don't know.
What was something 1998 originally?
I think it was or 2023. So August it just happened like August 30 something. And I don't know. I should have fact checked myself on that. The
Yeah.
details.
Now I'm curious because that was like one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it came alive. It was like 2:04 in the morning or some shit. I'm gonna grab a beer.
No worries. August 29th, 1997. Sarah Connor, 3 billion humans live were ended on August 29th, 1997.
I thought it was supposed to be. There was no year attached to that, but
No,
the
I
meme that I
thought
saw.
it was 98, but I was like, I was over a year. But I remember I was obsessed with that movie. I was like
Yeah.
super confident that I actually thought I was right too, but a year off, I'll take it.
Yeah, you had that one. Like I know that shit. So we were talking about real quick. What is the worst case scenario? What's the worst of the two? Extreme discourse. We're talking like Civil War style. Citizen against citizen and areas, just crazy chaos and almost like war on our own soil. Either that or like your 15-minute city with the social credit system. All those things implemented. Maybe a chip in your brain. Maybe some.
Which
sort
one
of
do
chip
I
in your-
think's worse?
Yeah.
The chip in your brain all day.
Yeah.
All day. 15-minute city is way more terrifying.
But you'll be happy, dude. Have you ever
Who
thought like
says?
simplicity? It'll bring you the simplicity that you want.
It'll paint me in their box and limit my human experience to
But
live
at
life.
least you'll be paint, or whatever.
I'd rather
No,
have
you
it,
won't even
I'd
have
rather have
access
it
to
hard and real. I'd rather live a rough life, but have it be a genuine, real life than
Right.
an easy life that's without depth at all. In my
Without depth,
opinion.
no purpose.
Right.
Yeah, I hear that. That was kind of a stupid question on my part, but
I mean, some people might tell you the other way. In my opinion, like, when I see a lot of the people I hear talk and argue their points on college campuses, I was like, oh yeah, this person would definitely want to do that.
Yeah.
They would look at it as a benefit, like, oh, you're gonna make my life so much easier. Thanks.
yeah, you know what?
And not
that,
think
that
twice
might-
about what it means that they're giving up.
like we were talking about earlier, just the 2 generation gap or just the slight difference in the changes that, and with technology moving faster and faster, that's going to decrease not even 2 generations. You go through 1 generation and then you're used to that being the norm.
Bro, it's even faster than
35
that.
years old or whatever.
Like, technically, there were only one generation. The kids who are 18 now are 1 generation away from us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, when we were 18, cell phones were barely portable.
Right.
They had just gotten rid of the boxes that you used to have to carry around and mount in your car. Or
Yeah.
the suitcase you'd have to carry with it to get signal. That was
Right, those
barely
old
outside of
bricks,
that,
dude.
right? Pagers were more common when I was 18
Yep.
than cell phones were.
Same here,
Most people had a pager. Most people didn't have a cell phone. And then when we did have them, they were stupid basic.
It's pagers and payphones. dude.
Texting was like a big deal. Oh, you could text now. Yeah, and you could send a message instead of calling each other, And now what can't your phone do? Runs your whole life. It could be your credit card. You tap it on stuff.
Oh yeah. Well,
it's
it's just, I mean, and great to have it all centralized into one. You were talking about the iPass, like location, the phone takes care of all these things. You don't even need an
and
iPass.
remembers it and data tracks
sure.
it and tells you your location. You ever see the people take the infrared video of your cell phone?
Where
It, like,
it
takes a
flickers.
picture like every 5 seconds. You can't see it because it's on an infrared level, but it's taking an
I see it
infrared
through the
picture like
VR lenses,
every yeah, I'm sure. Okay, every 5 seconds.
Yep.
It flashes, and that's it capturing a photo of you. Why? Why am I
So
acknowledging
sick,
it?
dude.
Why are you doing it? What if I get my phone in the shower and I'm listening to music? You snapping pictures of me naked? What do you need them for?
It's all infringement. What's those little carpet floor cleaner, the Roombas? Little rogue Roombas taking pictures of people taking a shit in the bathroom, the door open, it's just snapping pictures. There was like leaked photos that came out from a rogue Roomba that was just, I mean, everything, dude.
That's what we
the
were
first
just
time
talking
I
about.
saw that, I put on,
That's the example of the 15-minute people city right there.
yeah.
who want to say, oh, this is just easier. I don't care if I'll give up whatever a little bit of privacy to have to not worry about it.
Right.
Because now I never have to sweep my floor.
Right. The convenience.
I think there's something like, even though it's remedial, it's still like part of your human experience to have to clean up after yourself.
Right. Right. It's a responsibility. It's just so easy to.
It makes you a better person. You're not, because you have to like sacrifice a little bit of your time to keep a nice environment around yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it says something about you to the people who come around you and the environment you accept for yourself. Like, you're willing to put in the work to make things nice.
Absolutely, man. We give up the fucking freedoms for convenience, but yeah, and it's not even a hardship, dude. It's just a small responsibility.
I don't know if you knew that, but that whole subject of complacency with the human experience is basically what Ted Kaczynski's manifesto is about.
Oh, really?
About how like even a red light is controlling you, like because you stop for this light, this piece of technology tells you what to do.
Yeah.
And like how that's like, even though it seems like a logical way, but it is also integrating you into submissiveness to like their rules and like to integrate it into how like technology steals from the human experience. And on some level it does, but on some levels it enriches it as well. Like when you see
I think
music
a good
and
example
art
is that,
or good conversation, whatever it may be, that has enriched my life and has the capacity, but it's a lot of it's just fodder that just keeps you distracted for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think streetlights are good.
I agree, but the thought process behind how
The idea.
that's right.
And
It's
I've never
just
thought
an
I'm used to
example,
it.
right?
So,
Exactly, but it's a little different from his time too because he's
Right.
much older than us. So like
right.
his
Yeah, I
view
do.
on that kind of gives us like a perspective of how much we put right. Like if you think he thought about that way about a red light, what would he think about our cell phone?
Right.
Like, holy cow, you're giving up a lot.
I don't know, when it gets to a point, like, even now, running a business or whatever, if I wanted to, I guess there's ways to do it. I could still get like a landline. You know what I mean? If somebody wanted to steer away from just
I mean, the
be
Amish
almost
have
off
been
the grid, like would
the
you,
Amish have been doing it.
yeah, become an Amish?
It has an appeal on a certain level. I'm not gonna lie that there's like a part of me that
Yeah, well,
finds that aspect very appealing.
Yeah, I would agree. The simplicity. I've said for many years, and friend, I said it recently to a friend, and they had questioned me like, well, what do you mean by that? But my idea was the way that we're living is not how we were meant to live.
Agreed.
You know?
And that's what I think their lifestyle portrays. So like, how much time on the average person's day is wasted by either watching something or playing on their phone?
Yeah.
The Amish don't have that, and so what they do is engage with each other and enrich each other's lives by having meaningful conversations with each other or
Right.
working towards a goal for each other.
Yeah,
And it's
value
like
of community.
the connection in their community is way higher than outside of their community.
Yeah.
Like I think they have like all of them know each other by name. They all know what's happening in each other's lives. They're all supporting each other. And your barn burned down, everyone's coming to your house. We're gonna build you a barn.
We're gonna lift that shit up and get rid of all the
In a
burnt
day,
things.
we're gonna build you a barn. You know,
Right.
like because it's a community. They care about it. Like the success of all of them relies on the fact that they are a unit. So when one of them breaks down, it's not the end of the world. They can all pick
Right.
each other back up.
Right.
That's almost utopian to me, but
I don't know.
our-
Convenience is nice.
Our
though.
technology is nice. It is
nice,
convenient, and I do love it. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy the shit out of it. But
I think now we're to a point. It's been around long enough. Not like when we were kids. Kids nowadays, that's how they're growing up. So it's like just to think about that perspective and how things will continue to change because now that is like has been their norm in childhood and especially like you know what I mean. That generation gap just like
huge.
continues.
Like it was funny if one of our dads were to give us a sip off a beer when we were like 12. Now, if you did that, somebody might call the cops on you and Child Protective Services. Be like,
Right.
I was at their barbecue and they let their 12-year-old have half a sip of a beer, and
Yeah, and we can't have that.
then we were free range too. Like when I wanted to go out and play in like with the neighborhood kids, nobody held my hand. It was like, okay, be home by 5.
Right.
Not where like what are you guys gonna do?
But now
What
it's so convenient. Like you don't have to go anywhere to talk to your friends, so you're constantly on that black mirror screen. Just consuming and
It's a crutch for not engaging other people, in my opinion. A lot of times, it's like, because if you
Yeah.
didn't have that, you would probably go and socialize with someone
Yeah.
because you're craving that, and this is filling that void, as opposed to like. And that makes it easier to like get more distance on your view, and everything becomes an echo chamber because it learns you, and now it just reverberates all
stuff.
the same stuff you already think, and you think people
Yeah, it's so
outside of that are
crazy, dude.
nuts because you haven't ever engaged with those people and seen that they're just like you. They may have different perspectives, but they're they want love in their life. They want compassion towards other people. I would give that to most people walking the earth are like that way.
Or they're so echo chambered to where it's like they don't care or they don't want any of that, and they just want they're happy with their negativity and just like you don't fucking their own perspective, because that's all they're maybe exposing themselves to, or they've gotten praise for it. A lot of it is affirmation, like between
Right.
whatever the topic is, the new way to think, the cool, the in thing. It
Or
used
if
to
you don't
be-
think our way, you're a bigot.
yeah, and then instantly labeling
Cancel
and
culture.
othering.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
Instead of
Nazi
having a
shit.
logical argument, right? Instead of giving you a logical argument, I'm going to name call you like a 2-year-old,
Right.
because the things you say
Now you have to
make
defend
me
yourself.
think in a way I'm not comfortable with, right?
It's not just that, but it's then now you're put
I'm
on the
supposed to
spotlight
defend myself
yourself.
to your false accusation
Yeah,
because you're afraid to have a real conversation about a subject that makes you uncomfortable.
right. So if that starts getting implemented, like if that in Michigan, dude, if that actually like holds to it and it
When you
starts
see people
spreading
starting
and
in charge.
yeah, spreading and expanding. I mean, I don't know. That's going on in Canada. They have different sort of constitution than us, and
I think that's the response to a lot of the states passing, like the Protection of Women Acts, where now like you have to be a biological woman to compete in sports and get women's grants, and like a few states have already taken that step because they're like, well, no, you're not entitled to these. These are for the young women who've worked their whole life at this, and there's a reason why we separated that category.
that's why, dude. There's clear. I mean,
I never
I like
thought
that.
we'd have to fucking defend that as adults, that make believe isn't a good idea.
yeah,
Like,
I find
it's-
it funny the idea that the people that are telling you to follow the science are also
Completely
deflecting and ignoring.
Yes, exactly.
Science.
Over and over again.
So strange.
They did it with everything. That's like all the mask mandates. They ignored every bit of science that said it didn't stop. The particulates were too small.
Yeah.
It doesn't even stop drywall, which is like 1,000 times larger than the coronavirus particulates.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, but breathing this in, the only thing they proved is that those things do is diminish your oxygen quality. And what does that do for your brain? Why did we have to have this mandate when hydroxychloroquine and
They're coming
ivermectin
back
were
with
working?
it. I'm very interested in seeing in the next few months
Yeah,
where this is gonna go.
they're already telling you it's coming back. Which is like, prepare yourself because we're gonna do it. It's like we're telling you we're gonna do it.
Did you listen to one of my episodes? It was a satirical play on the reasons why I miss COVID. I miss COVID for all these reasons. Well, I'd refer you back to that if you haven't heard it. I
have to
had
check
fun
it out.
doing
That
it.
sounds like a fun episode. I could definitely get down on some satirical humor like that.
And then sure enough, like this is before I heard anything about it, but I go through certain points. Yeah, that was a fun one. And what I hate about putting down the podcast, dude, it's like as I'm going through the editing, taking away spaces and stuff, there's always things that I'm like, oh, I could have said it differently. Could have said it this way. I'm so critical, but just like that, there's something
Well, why
to
don't
gain.
you just
Hold on,
identify
though.
as someone who did say it that way?
Well, I mean,
Then
I
make
guess I
everyone
could, but
make
I like-
everyone hear you that way. It's okay.
Yeah, why not?
Identify as the correct way of saying
Well,
it.
I like elaborating on your point where there's something to gain within that adversity, the challenge. It's in doing the work, because I firmly believe that. You said that in other words, but there's always something to get better. Like I hate the process because it takes me an hour, 2 hours. It took me 5 hours on the video podcast. I spent a whole day just editing that shit, but it gave me a sense, like just in doing the work, things that I can improve upon, like happy for the things that I like about it, but also
And that has
also,
more value because you put in the work.
Absolutely. put in the work, and then even if it's something where it's like, I don't really like this, I'll keep it in there anyways, just because, that's a vulnerability kind of aspect to it, where it's like,
Or part of my growth. I'm going to listen to the shit that I recorded 6 months ago and be like, oh, I don't do that anymore. And I'm so proud of myself that I made
Yeah.
these changes, or I recognized that I wasn't happy with the way that was and I made these alterations. And now I'm coming across more of where I'm aiming at. And, like, I'm going to keep climbing, but I'm closer to where I want to be, like, to see your progression.
it's a steep mountain.
Yeah,
but,
whatever. Right, exactly. But it should be. It
But-
shouldn't be unattainable. You gotta set little attainable goals so you don't defeat yourself. You know, like, oh, I'm never reaching this. You know, like, this is my
Just have
next
fun
stage.
with it.
This is the next thing I'm gonna get done. You know, I'm gonna record an episode on this day and then get that done and celebrate that victory, because you're making the steps towards the top of that mountain. You can't stare at the top the whole time and like expect to feel good about a lifelong climb, but you could be
Yeah.
like, I took another step towards the top. I did this thing that's getting me there, and I feel good about that. I'm actually putting in the work to keep stepping forward this way.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, the forward momentum, dude. But in order for it to be like, that goal is what's at the top, right? In order for there to be a top, then essentially there would have to be some sort of goal. What's funny about this is just like, I don't know. It's a stupid little project. Like, I have fun when I do it, but there is no, like, if somebody were to ask me, what's the goal with your podcast? I'd be like, I don't fucking know.
That
The process is
to
the
do
goal,
it,
I guess,
right?
to
But
do
that's
it.
good. You know, that's part I think you would lose a lot of the quality if you were just in it for fame. Like, I'm gonna pursue because I want to be the next Joe
Right.
Rogan. I gotta
Right.
get on top. I want 1 million views on YouTube. That's stupid. But like, to be like, I enjoy doing it, and when I engage in these, I grow. I have deep conversations or whatever, or we laugh or whatever the circumstances may be.
Yeah.
It's a growth process of yourself. You know, it's like I'm developing more confidence about the way I think about this subject, or I've heard new information and changed my mind on something I used to think about this way, but now I've learned, you know, this is a better way for me to think about it. It's like, that to me is a better goal than
Right,
any
than having
pursuit
a
of glory.
superficial,
Right. It's like, I'm on this journey, and that's the goal, is to keep enriching this journey and keep pursuing something. And this is the way, my outlet to do it is to
Yeah.
do audio, or like the same reason why people paint or do music or anything else. Oh, one thing we
Yeah, I
didn't talk
agree
about
100%, dude.
is that song, Richmond, North of Richmond. You heard that one?
Yeah. Let's end on that. So let's talk about that real quick. Did you have a few?
I just love the kid, and it's just so shocking to see how much that resonated even with people outside of, like, so many hip hop artists have already spit on that. I don't know if you've seen that, but like, they use his hook and then they spit a verse
in a positive light,
or
right?
reiterating what he's saying. Basically,
In
they're
their
just
own
saying,
fucking form.
right, in their own, what their personal struggle about the Richmond, North of Richmond have screwed them. So, like, they're each telling their own little story about, like, this is how they're fucking me. And this is why I don't matter to these piece of shit assholes, these
That is
Richmond,
cool,
North
dude.
of Richmond. I just, yeah.
It's a cultural, and that's what keeps me white pilled, dude.
Right,
is
as I
the
see
fact,
those
like, these
people.
little wins. That's what I was saying
Right.
earlier. These little wins, dude,
Matter so much.
pushback.
Yeah.
They absolutely.
It gives me
that's
hope.
that's gonna be crucial to the freedom of speech, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining the freedom of speech and just our values, our Constitution, bringing back, the freedoms.
Agreed.
And like, I'm speaking from somebody who had it fairly good. What, middle class family? Not poverty, not rich. Just a normal, like, basic, and there was
Well,
nothing. There was no adversity.
that's,
but still, it
That's
was
a perspective of America, that you were middle of the road, because worldly, you were rich.
right.
If you
the
look at a
poorest
world
person and-
standard, you're fucking wealthy compared to majority of the world.
That's true.
But on an American standard, yeah, we're middle class. I
that's-
only say that because my family worked with refugees so much, and seeing them was like, wow, we have so much.
But that's all we know, so we don't even realize how much we do have. Some people do, and I think that is valuable in itself if you do have that perspective. But we don't realize it a lot of times. Even if you're the poorest person, you still have it better than, like, 80% of the other world. I don't know. A lot of fucking a large percentage. Do you think that over time? Oh, with that Oliver Anthony, let's stay on that. Dude, he was just recently on Rogan. That was a pretty decent podcast.
I just like every interview I've seen him. He's like this very humble dude who's just like, I don't want to go on a road tour. I don't want to press records all day long and work in a recording studio. I still just want to be out on my farm playing.
Yeah. Declining instant deals, dude. This guy was overnight.
Massive.
You know, that's a cultural shift. That's a small win for culture, dude. A pushback against like the government. You know, a lot of it is just big government, like fucking alphabet agency, fucking
Like I
organizations,
said,
dude.
some bigger names in hip hop were like Dax. Do you know who Dax is?
No, I don't know a lot of.
Okay, he's kind of a bigger hip hop artist, and then a guy named Chris Webby, who's pretty well recognized.
Yeah.
Both spit on that track, and they both did a really really great job.
So it's
man.
the same like background, same music, and
Well,
they
they
got
even used
their
his
own
voice, like they took excerpts of the song, like the vocals in the background, and used that as kind of the background and kept the whole vibe of the song,
Cool.
but then like spit hip hop lyrics to kind of that vibe. They obviously
with their
added
own
like a
personal
little bit
twist
of
to it.
yeah, it's the same like guitar and everything, but they added a little like drums and like drum lines to
I
it to
gotta
kind
check it out.
of make it a little more hip hop. But yeah, it was really good stuff, man.
Yeah, social media is weird too. Like there was and I always have that idea in the back of my head or the thought in the back of my head where it's like I question the motives and I have references or people that I listen to, pay attention to, that I rely on as a reliable source to me. But for things that I'm not really as familiar with, I tend to question like where is this coming from? Like where's the motivation? Is it just like you know, for a rapper, for example, if they're redoing the song, or they're like, hey, this is what's hot right now. This is what people are paying attention to. I can have Oliver Anthony in my title and know that it's an instant. So is it a personal, almost like that false goal of like recognition? And you know how many dopamine hits?
Well, I think when you look at it from like a different perspective, let's say, like, so you think that's going to make you more famous, but part of that is also now you're bringing more people to Oliver Anthony because people who wouldn't listen to country ever are going to get introduced to this dude and by someone they like already, because if they're already listening to that artist and they're like totally two separate genres, how often are like folk, country, and hip hop mixing?
Right.
You know what I mean? They're far separated. So now when this hip hop artist is like, oh, this dude laid it down and it resonated with me. And so I'm going to write lyrics that kind of have that whole vibe and speak my truth on that subject. And then there are people who listen to mainly probably their genre of music get introduced like, oh, this dude's spitting fire on this track. Who's the background? You know?
That is a good point. I think it is ultimately a net gain for culture, dude.
Yeah, both sides win.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, regardless of if there's, I mean, unless it's like hurting people, that's the only time where it's like. But other than that, dude, freedom of speech, like whatever your purpose is, like get it out. And I think you're 100% right. It spreads that message to people that wouldn't otherwise have heard of it or even never
Cared to
will
listen
or
to a
cared
folk
to
song,
listen. Yeah.
right? That they're like, how many hip hop kids are like, oh, I love country. They're like probably the two far most separated from each other.
Well, and that's where I have to take a perspective because I heard about this dude. I am in the thick of it, paying attention enough to where if something happens, like my news cycle, the standard. What is the standard news cycle of the average person out there? What would you say? 24 hours, maybe a week, maybe they'll tune in here and there. The average person, there's 300 million people plus or whatever.
I would say like we're talking obviously adult demographic.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so like 25 to 65, whatever.
Fair.
I would
Yeah.
say probably 3 times a day because it's on our phone.
Yes.
So you open
I don't think
Google
that's
and you get a
unrealistic.
review, and then you see a tile that interests you because it's aimed at you, and you're
Right.
like, "Oh, I do want to know about this." You know, like, "Oh, what happened on this study?" Or, "Oh, this is an interesting story. I was thinking about that."
I guess like what I was I
Phone's
feel
a
like
crazy thing, man.
it is, and I feel like my news cycle is like every 2 hours. It's like, oh, so when Oliver Anthony came out, I mean, I can't believe, but I'm in the thick of it, right? So sometimes it's like, hey, have you heard of this song? No, I haven't heard of it. I'm like, where the fuck have you been? This shit's been out for a week. You know, it's all over the place. Like, but that's how I see it because I'm exposing myself to those things, and
Music's
You know,
a big
so-
one for me.
yeah.
So that's like I'm usually relatively relevant on music. because I put most of my day. I'm not like someone who listens to podcasts on a regular basis. I'm definitely that person who's like, oh, I'm going to try to find some new artists that I haven't heard of and try to see what vibe I'm on.
What would be your go-to? So if you're like working or whatever, you're just like, I'm gonna just put on a playlist. What would you album? What would you go to?
Most recognizable, like, main one that I would go to?
Yeah, just like a common one, like a
Offspring
default.
would be like a great workstation.
Yeah.
You know, if you just hit like random on Offspring, that's more like
It's 90s alternative.
yeah, but I'm like, you know, like I literally listen to everything from like if you're into classical, I like Ludovico and Audi is like the man, dude. That guy is crazy awesome.
Who is it?
Ludovico and Audi. If you ever seen Netflix has a series called Moving Art. It's a Lewis, I forget the cinematographer's name, but he's
Yeah, I
like
haven't
a
heard.
really famous nature cinematographer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like no narrator, no nothing. It's just nature. Sometimes it's like forests or it's oceans or it's like flowers, like desert, all kinds of different like settings like that. And it's like usually about 45 minutes long. Well, all the music's composed by that guy Ludovico and Audi, and that's
Oh,
how I
gotcha.
came across him. I used to like to fall asleep to it because it was like super serene. It was like all this beautiful scenery and this very awesome piano music, and it's super chill vibe. So
Oh, that's cool.
but I could
A
vibe on
meditative
anything.
state
Oh,
almost.
it's awesome. Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
gnarly to watch because some of the cinematography and it's like stunning. You're like really taken away about like, oh, I didn't even know this existed in nature. You know, it's like such a gnarly trip to see what nature's capable of. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. In
But
that
not the
regard.
music in the background. That's not in nature.
Well,
You can't go to
no,
that place and be
no.
like, unless you're hearing it in your head.
No,
and you're like,
no,
you got a symphony.
not the music in the background, right?
I'm just kidding.
You do hear some river sounds and stuff like that are through it, but it's just super
Right.
relaxing. But yeah,
Right, I gotcha.
I listen to everything.
Yeah.
Everything I could get my hands on. I listen to, like, I got caught listening to this French dude, and they're like, why are you listening to French music? I'm like, this song bangs. I was like, I don't know what the hell he's saying, but this song bangs,
It's a
dude. I love
banger.
it. It's like, it's great.
Yeah, a lot of times I just listen to podcasts, dude, and then when I do listen to music, I hit a few stations would be like Led Zeppelin radio or Slipknot radio. Those are probably Slipknot, dude. It changes my internal vibrations, man. It gives me like, because I'm so used to
Pantera
just
riffs
people.
do that for me. I cannot hear Pantera riff without my blood instantly
Just
going
like-
to like boil. It's like, watch out.
And it's so it's like few and far. I used to listen to music that would be anytime I work, anytime I do anything, dude, is music constantly playing until I got into podcasts. And over time, I just listened to and subscribe to more and more podcasts, which I really like because it's very interesting, informative. And to me, it's enjoyable. But then when I listen to music, it's like, especially some Slipknot, dude, I start jumping up and down. And
Getting
it's like, I
rowdy.
don't get that out of a podcast. It changes your fucking energy, dude.
Right. And even I do that with like some people really make me think. Like a hip hop artist named Khan, Kaan, knowledge above all nonsense. That's what it stands for. His lyrics are like a thought process, man. It's like engaging on a mental level if you read what he's saying. And it's like, it's
Fucking-
not something like where you hear it the first time and you hear what he's saying, because he has a little bit on like a faster flow, and he has an exceptional vocabulary. So some of the things you're like,
Nice.
wait, how are you doing that? Like that? Okay, I need to think about that for a second. You think about it for a second. He said 4 more lines.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck, I'm behind. Shit, what did you just say? But I've read most of his lyrics, so like that's how much he engaged me when I was listening to it. It's like, I really need to read what this guy's saying, because it's like intense,
Yeah.
some hard shit. And
It's fucking tits, dude. Actually, you gave me a few new things to listen to, so that's cool. That's
Word.
good. That's cool. I don't know, dude. I think we'll end it there. You're gonna have to come back in maybe another 6 months or before that. When it's
Update.
cool too.
if I'm not in my bomb shelter,
Yeah, right. by
hiding in
then.
my cabin in the
Yeah.
woods with my bow and arrow, surviving. But that,
Supplies
just so
and-
you know, that's the white pill, is me living back in wilderness as
Oh,
a
okay.
normal. Like, that's my utopia, is just to be one with nature.
I
Kinda
get that.
Be not bothered with work and just,
Yeah,
you know,
doing your own
hunt, gather
thing.
for my food.
Yeah, but in order,
No
I don't know,
government,
I think to get
nobody else to be telling me what to do.
is there anything that you would like to say or?
I'm going to pee on your floor if we don't end it soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.